that's been kicked in the nuts by fake news. Nobody knows what to believe.
I don't know what I said.
We need one maverick newsman to cut through all the noise and tell us what's really real.
I'm not that guy.
Hello! Welcome to Really Real with Richie Redding. I'm Richie Redding, and this is going to be a fun little episode with not much preparation, but so I'm moving. I'm in the process of moving. We took off last week. Thank you for our understanding. We really cannot afford to lose any of our viewers at this point. So you stick with me, you sons of bitches. All right, it's a movement. It's a slow movement. It's glacial, but it's going to happen because this is one of the funnest, gosh darn, sometimes news, sometimes storytelling, sometimes conspiracy shows on your internet. Yeah, happy to be back. We got the keys this past Friday. Remember how I told you it's like somehow I'm going back into a Schuster building, Bobby?
Yeah.
That like indirectly a Schuster. So the first cracks started today that Lisa was over there. And like, so when on Saturday there was just a shit ton of cardboard out in the hallways right by the trash room. So it was like, oh, okay, this is what you do with your enormous cardboard. And then today we went, we had like basically somewhere between a warning and a citation that you can't put stuff out there. She met the what's his face, the super, and it was like, okay, well, we need these couple things fixed. Can you do that? No. All right, well, we need like the gas grill has the wrong hookup. Like, can you help us with that? No, I don't do that stuff. And she's like, well, what do you do? And he's like, if the building needs something, I do that. And it was like, oh yeah. So he has to be a Schuster guy, which means absolute guaranteed useless loser.
The last super who tried to do stuff on his own created a whole bunch of problems for some guy named Richie Redding. So we are not allowed to do anything going forward.
Yo, could you imagine if Jesus showed up with this dude? Like, yo, he's just got some 4-foot tall Guatemalan with him. Like, buddy, this is about to get real. And so, but like, there was just like a few boxes out in the hallway, and and it's just Lisa there. And he's like, yeah, just so you know, from now on, they have to be like broken down. And she's like, okay, well, like, can we just like tip you and you'll get rid of it? And he's like, no, that would be a conflict of interest. You got to do it yourself. Like, conflict of interest to just make $10? It's supposed to be some luxury building. Just get this shit out of here, dude. It's so funny because it's in such stark contrast to the current building where I'm literally just getting mountains moved by tipping dudes with edibles like I talked about last week. Yo, I gave one to the dude. There's the guy, there's a garage in the basement, and these guys are, it always smells like weed down there. And there's a fat dude that I gave him one, and like I just reached in and like saw what it was. I was like, hey bro, here. He's like, and he looked at it. He wasn't like psyched at all. I was like, you know what that is? And he like turned it around. He's like, oh, all right. And I was like, but dude, that's a big boy. That's a 75. Like, you know what you're doing with them? He's like, yeah, man. I saw him yesterday. I was like, yo, how was that? He's like, bro, man, I took that shit with like 2 hours to go. It's like I was having like a fucking panic attack. So he's at work just passing the night and having a good old-fashioned edible-induced panic attack thanks to my free tips. So that's on the house.
You got to be careful. One of my friends was in town, got some candy from that guy, and is now marketing it as, I got the drugs from the guy who got Mulaney rehooked. Because I don't know if you know that. That guy's the Connect for SNL.
Yeah. That's my boy.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know
it's
that
the stuff that put Mulaney back on track.
Well, wait, is he active again right now?
No, that's what his whole special was about, how he got active, then he got unactive and married.
Wait, that was my guy that he was talking to? Well, that's hilarious. I don't. If I'm going to name drop, I always just say it's Pete Davidson's drug dealer, so you know it's good.
Just as effective.
Yeah, right. But yeah. So dude, the funniest shit was that Lisa and I grew up very differently, and she has much different ideas about how to get stuff done. Because we ordered all this fucking shit from Wayfair, and yeah, it comes and you got to put it together, and she just considers it like part of the price of this stuff that you have to hire somebody to help you put it together, and I'm just adamantly against that. But also very bad at putting stuff together, and it kills my back. Right, so on Saturday, so we got this whole it's like a 7-piece set, and it took me 3 hours to put together 3 of the pieces. And I'm bitching about my back. I'm resenting her for not doing anything, and the whole nine. I'm being a bitch. If I'm being honest, I'm just being a bitch. In my head, I'm not actually letting it out, but know that I'm a pussy on the inside. And my back's well, first of all, I don't know how immigrants do it. Russian dudes and Chinese dudes can just sit in a squat for fucking 40 hours a week, smoke cigarettes down there. I'm in that for 30, and I work out. I'm not an out of shape person. If I'm in a squat for 30 seconds, I want Gatorade. I'm ready for my break. But that's how they take their break. So after listening to me bitch for all this time, she's like, all right, let me just get somebody to come tomorrow. I'll get a TaskRabbit. And she's like, yeah, it's $80 an hour. I'll just get him for 2 hours and he'll finish this thing. And my first reaction is always fucked up. But this time it was just like, all right. And you know what actually changed my mind is Joe List told me, he told me a story. Well, we were just talking about how the subways are so unsafe, and that he wanted to get Sarah an Uber coming back from the village at 2 a.m, and instead of taking the NQR, and she's like, yeah, it's a waste of money, Joe. And he's like, no, it's a use of money. And it was like, that is a way better way of thinking of it. So that dawned on me. I was like, yeah, it's a use of money. So this dude comes, Artur. I'm expecting it to be a Mexican guy because biases. And instead, it's this Armenian dude that came to play. This guy was about his business. So at first, just the basic. There's no people skills whatsoever. It was limited English or whatever. And we're like, well, you can just do it in here, inside. Because it's the patio furniture is the whole thing, right? And we're like, and it was muggy as shit yesterday. It was 85 and 90% humid. And we're like, just do it in here. And he's like, no. We're like, you want to do it outside? He's like, I was like, okay, you want me to help you? No. So he gets to dragging these boxes out, and dude, just a wizard taking just making cuts. He had the box cutter out. He fucking just got all the hardware out with one slice, fucking peeled it open. Yo, this dude's nice. Me and Lisa just start talking, and we're conventioning about something else. Oh, God, I just turned into a Jew. I get one TaskRabbit. Next thing I know, I'm speaking Yiddish. We're talking for 10 minutes. I look up to look outside, and realize that he's got one of the chairs put together already. Like, the thing's tied off on the back. It's like, holy shit. Like, the thing that took me an hour, it took him 10 minutes. Another 6 minutes go by. Boom. He stands up the next one. It's like, yo, this dude is nice. And it went from that we were initially like, oh yeah, like, well, we'll do stuff too. We'll be there putting something else together. We'll help him. And they saw how fast he went in these first 20 minutes. And like, nah. Like, my man's got this. Dude, so we wound up bumping it up to 3 hours. In 3 hours, he put together the rest of this 7-piece, like, sofa thing, a grill out of the box that basically, like, shipped flat, and table and chairs and umbrella, all in 3 hours. And we were like trying to explain to him how to. We were like, can we like get you, like, off TaskRabbit in the future, and like we'll pay you more, but not more than you get now, but not the same rate as TaskRabbit. And he's like, well, I get paid $57.50, and we're like, okay, we'll give you $65. He's like, no, $57.50. It's like, okay. And it was like, can we give you a tip? No. And like, it's like a weird culture thing. It's like some places like just completely don't understand the concept of a tip, that like they think they're like begging or homeless or some shit. So we've got him coming back, and I got this armoire thing that, like, the site tried to charge $600 to put this thing together, because they said it's going to be a 6-hour build. And I showed it to my man Artur. He's like, 2 hours is easy. It's like, yes, let's go, Artur, let's go. But yeah, it reminded me of well, first of all, that whole thing of just like my bias that like my way is the right way is just so fucking stupid. It's like, if she wants to spend her money, go for it, whatever. But it's like in my head, I'm like, dude, I'm a builder's kid, man. And it's like, yeah, you're a builder's kid that went to an Ivy League school and doesn't know which end of a fucking hammer to pick up. Like, it's just, I still call my dad about every single semi-construction thing that I could possibly do to see if I'm going to fuck it up or not. But also, he hasn't picked up a hammer in like 50 years because Mexicans, they're better at this shit. That's a thing that like never gets talked about in right-wing circles of like talking about immigration, that the housing boom from like 2000 to 2007 that happened before the bust was entirely because of Mexican labor. Like, it couldn't have happened without those dudes. And to a like a much smaller extent, my dad had it, like, he just wasn't a big time builder, but like he had, at most, I think ever, he had like 12 guys that were Mexican dudes that worked for him, that like he paid them probably the same amount, let's face it, probably what it was, but he paid them similar to what he paid the American guys, and they got shit done twice as fast because they didn't drink, they didn't do drugs, they weren't out doing anything other than just here to work. They lived, there was a dozen of them in one apartment, and they just crushed it, dude. Just crushed it. And like, without them, there's no way that because that happened on like mass scale across America with builders like Hovnanian and the Toll Brothers and shit, that they'll say they didn't, but they 100% all those guys were doing that. And before that, this was the point that I wanted to make, was that before those guys, so like I worked for my dad in the summer, like just doing grunt work kind of construction stuff. It was always like cleaning out after the carpenters and all that kind of shit. Like the worst stuff. Clearing brush. The absolute fucking worst. In the Pine Barrens in South Jersey. Like he would buy a new property and like maybe I would get to help like with the engineering, you know, like hitting the sticks with the why can't I think of that guy's name right now? It's been too long now. I just look like I'm jerking off. With the planner dude, and but it would no, it's gone. But yeah, it like my job when I was like 10 would be like, all right, now go clear all those briars out and look out for poison ivy. Like just treated me like the scum of the earth. And then when I was like 13, he started getting other laborers who were well, actually there was a bunch of winners now that I think about it. But there was a dude, there's a few dudes in a row that were work release program. Right? So I'm like 13 and I'm supervising convicts that are out for the day. And my unofficial title that none of them ever knew about was supervisor of the crew of losers. It's literally what my dad said. He's like, all right, don't let any of these losers pull one over on you. Look, just be on the lookout. If they have anybody come by and drop anything off, call the cops. It's like, cool. I just had to go to a payphone in the 90s and find a cop so I can snitch. But dude, he had this one guy that he was like a friend. He was like cousin of a family friend or something, but his name was Ned and we called him Nub. And this dude had he had like very, if Kurt Cobain had no talent and was a total stoner instead, that would have been Nub, right? But the reason that he landed in South Jersey at the time was because he had been in the Merchant Marines and he washed out of the Merchant Marines because he had a vicious inner ear fluid problem, and yeah, so he couldn't get his equilibrium, and all the time, dude, we would be, and when I tell you this dude was a stoner, I mean he was like, yeah, like that guy. It was like cartoon stoner type shit, like before people realized you could actually like smoke weed and still fucking be smart. But all the time, this dude, we would like jump out of the truck to go, you know, mow a lawn or something, and I would just hear, and like I would go over, I would go over, and Nub would be like fighting to try to find his horizon. Just he's on the ground, but just like all over the place. Like, wait, dude, just give me a minute, bro. Just give me a minute. Okay. And you'd like have to like, he would like put his back up against the truck and like walk his way up to try to get himself stable again. Like, the dude was fucked from the inner ear shit. And he worked for my dad for a couple of years, and say he's, I mean, this was like late 90s, right? So say he's making like 12 an hour, 15 an hour top. It was probably $12 an hour. He comes into my dad's office. He's like, Mark, I just want to let you know I really appreciate you, but I got a job making $50 an hour. And I'm moving to Michigan. And he's like, what? $50 an hour? Like, how'd you do that? What's the job? He's like, I'm going to be painting bridges and water towers from now on. Like, what? This guy that can't step out of a truck without eating shit is now dangling off of bridges. And gotta give it to you until I'm still alive. But the thing is that you're just so strapped in, right? That it's like it kind of doesn't matter if you know where the horizon is, as long as you can just always just think it might be better to be swinging than to be standing on the ground.
Balances them out.
Yeah. And and then his wife is now has like a naughty cake factory type thing. Like she's baking penis cakes for a living. And I will also say, this just hit me, was my first kiss. Yeah. How about that, Bobby?
Nub was your first kiss?
No.
Was it easy?
Nub's
He
wife.
was all disoriented?
Yeah. He was like, whoa! And I was like, blah, blah, blah. No. Glory, who was the chick that he went on to marry, I was in 6th grade. We were both in 6th grade, and she was like a foot taller than me.
Nice.
And yeah, I think we were both in drag. It was something like I was a Girl Scout and she was Frankenstein. We fucking made out, baby. Got some tongue in the backseat of a Suburban while my mom was driving. Hell
nice,
yeah.
Dude.
Halloween, like, what was it, like 91? What?
You can't underestimate the Hispanic workforce, though. It's incredible.
Well, let's just talk about that I got my first kiss when I was in drag as a Girl Scout.
I think you and your therapist should talk about that, not you and me, Twiz.
You never had a boner in a skirt. That's what you're going to sit here and tell me? Yeah, you never had a boner in a skirt?
The only way I can get a boner is if I'm in a skirt.
But yes, you are also correct. The Hispanic workforce is the shit.
I used to build bicycles at Dick's, and then they would bring in an outside workforce, and there was one crew, and they just did a terrible job. Like, they'd put the handlebars on upside down, backwards. They didn't care because they got paid per the bike. So if you build 20 bikes in an hour, you're making $100 an hour. So I finally went to the district manager and was like, these guys are ruining our business. We can build it faster. And he was like, okay, you build, and if you can build at their rate. And I was like, they have 6 guys. He's like, I'll give you one other. And I went, Josue, who was the Hispanic guy in the back. And we built these
I believe
bikes
it's pronounced Jose.
No, that's where you're wrong. You would think so. It was actually Josue, and me and Josue, he figured out how to build bikes quickly. No lunch breaks, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just boom, he was ready to go. Brought his own tools the next day.
And by you and Jose, you mean you smoking and Jose just fucking ripping through bikes.
Just holding the cigarette for him as he's ripping through it. Exactly. We would also backflip after every bike, so you'd do the final wrench and then throw your tool in the air like you hit a home run. We didn't last long in the bikes department.
Right. It's funny. Before we move on to our next segment, I do believe that our beloved Twiz has sent you some topical 4th of July questions.
So last week we took.
Is this a test?
It's a bit of.
Am
a
I getting
test.
tested?
I felt like I was being tested because Twiz sent me 2 pictures and was like, "Hey, can you explain how these celebrate the 4th of July?" And I could not, but you're the resident American expert here, Richie. So this is the first photo we have.
If you don't understand how this celebrates, this is everything America stands for. Zoom in. Zoom in. Go on. Don't be shy. Okay. That is a Stars and Bars banana hammock that I'm rocking right there. Complete with thong in the back, if you were one. Yeah.
That was the second photo we had.
Part of me feels as if this is not really a 4th of July test at all. That was during Quar when I dropped my new album, so I needed something. I needed something that was guaranteed to get some looks, so I went and hit some golf balls in a American flag thong. of which I have to say there are a shocking amount of options for men's American flag thongs. Very specifically, men's American flag thongs. I feel like there might be more than women. But I mean, dude, you can put the one with the gun back up there. That is, I can tell you right now what we got happening there. Well, first of all, the shade from the pool screen cage is making my quads look great. Yeah. Thank you, dude. There's no way I have that kind of striation on the quads. So will do again. I can also tell you that inner tube was whatever the dumpster dive equivalent is of finding shit on a river after a hurricane. That was after Hurricane Sandy. We cleaned up on the Mullica River, dude. There was so much shit around. I just went out with a kayak. Like, we had 30 of those things. So I can tell you that. That is also an Oliva G cigar. It's either a G or an O, Connecticut shade wrapper. And that is a real, fully functional Springfield Armory AR-15. The only thing fake in the picture was that we added a little muzzle flash at the tip there. But my parents were really being hard-ons about the gun being empty. And I think we also took out, there was a red trigger guard on it that I had my boy brush out. I didn't want to look like no bitch, you know? But yeah, they were pretty adamant about not shooting an AR-15 in their residential neighborhood for whatever reason. It's that whole, even if it's in the air, bullets still land thing. Whatever. Mom, let me live.
You got to be careful with an AR near pool water like that, right? Not like an AK where you could just dunk it in.
No, I think you're better off with an AR over an AK. With really? That. Yeah. Well, because ARs are brass ammo, and AKs for the most part shoot that cheap Russian steel shit. And that stuff corrodes really easily and can do all kinds of things and, fuck it up. But also, I'm biased because I'm American. I'm like a fucking AR. But, which I'm going to shoot at the end of August. Excited about that. But, I thought a thing worth mentioning regarding 4th of July is, I don't know if you've seen the movement towards like, people are saying that they should do drone displays instead of fireworks, because fireworks start fires, and also scare the living shit out of dogs.
From what I hear, Canadian women start forest fires, but that's just me.
Are they blaming that on broads?
The one story circulating is that there was an all-female firefighter convention that did a live burn under conditions you shouldn't do a live burn.
Yeah.
And then refused the help of men. And, like, all the male fighters spoke under the guarantee of anonymity. But we're like, yeah, dude, anybody who knows anything about fires knows you should not have done this today. Like, this was a terrible idea, and they waited way too long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently there's like 400 of them, though. So it seems unlikely that they did that 400 times. Even broads would learn a lesson eventually.
I don't know. They're pretty good.
The 300th time, I think we're going to get a hang of this. But, yeah, dude, the drone things. There's one, see if you can find it, of it's in China, and it's like they create, with like 1,000 drones, they create a dragon that's flying around in the sky. Using it Twiz. It looks really cool, but on the other hand, it also really looks like a doomsday scenario if these things are military drones and have that capability, that it's straight out of was it like The Last Survivor, or was that Yeah, so I mean, that's fun. That's just drones like falling, but they can make these things take shape like like a dragon, just like soaring all over the sky. Yeah. I would like to find see if there's an Iranian one, because that's the ones that are really coming for us. Yeah, I mean, that technology's 3 years old that they're doing that. All right, fuck it, that's not fun enough. What I want to get to, the last 2 nights I fell asleep watching The Breakfast Club, and god damn it, that movie is good. But it's also, I mean, I know it's like a trope at this point, like you can't shoot that anymore. But, oh wait, yeah, you found the dragon? Tell me this isn't an absolute warning, this thing. Yeah, so that same thing, but they're all armed. Woo! It's exciting. It's like, remember the what was it, like the 2008 or 2010 Olympics, whatever the Beijing Olympics was, that it was like, it was this amazing choreography, also a foreboding military exercise and a warning to all onlookers to not fuck with the dragon. But anywho, Breakfast Club, dude, the opening scene, like we always laugh about it, like, oh, you can't do that anymore. The very opening scene when they show Bender's locker, do you remember this, Bobby?
Yes.
It's open this locker and die with a noose and then an arrow with a ... fag. Like, God damn.
I've actually got that tattooed on my back.
What, your asshole?
Yeah, exactly.
A warning to any would-be night rapists.
Exactly.
Rape my butt, there's gonna be consequences. But yeah, dude, it reminded me of so much shit and so many stories that I want to cover. But yeah, so like first of all, Judd Nelson was so fucking good in that, and like I feel like he peaked in that movie somehow. That like nobody ever, they never let him off the leash the way that they did in that ever again. But like, he was such a great walking embodiment of the worst kid from every single school. And at first I was thinking, I was like, I don't think we really had that kid. And then I started thinking about the bad kids from my school, and that there was like, there was a few kids that it was like, they were such outsider dirtbags that like you didn't even notice it. Because they were such fucking dirtbags. We had a just like, I think I was in 6th grade. Yeah, I was in 6th grade, and there's just like this weird hushed pall of a tone, or like of the whole school, and they're like, yeah, I won't say his last name, but they're like, yeah, Rob died. Like, who? Like, yeah, that kid Rob that always wore the glove. He had like the fingerless. He had the big J glove, and it was like, and that's all that we heard. It was like, this kid died. It was like, oh, I don't know him, but I'm sad. Like, fuck. Like, what are you? Somebody. It's so rare that somebody that young dies. They pulled the whole school into an assembly, and like, I feel like every assembly other than this, it was always like, you gotta wear a bicycle helmet, and there's a new law where you gotta buckle up, right? Like all this kind of dumb shit. Or it was like when the cops came and did the DARE program with us, which was like just basically showing off of how much drug stuff we knew about. And and they're like, yeah, we want to know, we're letting you know that your classmate Rob passed away, and we want to have a very serious grown-up discussion with everybody about the dangers of huffing gasoline. And it was like, huh? And apparently him and like the two other like, you know, dirty kids, that was their thing, was that they would go and they would like put their money together, or they would steal like a gas can from their parents' fucking garage and go and huff gas in the woods. Like, fuck, man. And it was one of those things that it was like, it was just so immediately and obviously dangerous that it wasn't like no, not one single person was, it wasn't like, it, you know, when it's like, hey, you know, there's nitrous oxide inside of a whipped cream can. If you do that, you'll get high. They're like, yeah, if you do this, you might die. And it was like, yeah, yeah, that's what happens if you do that. You know, it was like, it was just so fucking weird. It might as well have been like an assembly telling us like, hey, you shouldn't point guns at your head and pull the trigger. Like, okay, well, seems like safe advice. But that was the only like super out there type kid that we had. But it was also a pretty it was a great trashy thing that like the hoary girl that was his girlfriend then wore that glove for like the rest of the year. It's fucking so cringe. She like let a friend or two wear it. Like it's just this dirty ass fingerless big J glove.
That definitely smells like gasoline.
Do not smoke with that glove on. Your hand will catch on fire. It will catch on fire. But dude, just watching Breakfast Club reminded me of so much shit. Of like more of my friends. I kind of always kept like different groups of friends, and especially like in college. But I always had like the skater kid friends, or like the kids that had like they got dirt bikes and were going out and doing mischief and shit, and then like the overachiever rower kids. And the closest thing to Emilio Estevez's character, actually, it was way more intense, was had this kid who, he actually wound up being on the junior national team with me, was the most tightly wound athlete that you've ever seen. That this kid, from the time he was like 4, his dad had him doing like calisthenics and pull-ups and shit. When he was 8 years old, he was doing 90-mile canoe races with his dad over like 3 days. And he's got these, all these pictures, like, you know, there's 1,000 fucking medals that he's got at his house from all these father and son races. And part of it is because they adjust for age. So like, you're just invincible. It's, if you can be young enough in a father-son race or old enough in a master's race, you can't lose. Like because master's races, once you're over like 65, they start adjusting for time. There was this quad in Philly, which, you know, it was these 4 old guys that they were all like over 85, and you get something like 3 seconds per year per person. And so over like a 15-minute long race, you can win or you can lose by like 9 minutes and still win. And so those guys were so old and so untouchable that one of them died in like around like 2000, and they just started going out as a 3-person boat racing against 4-person boats, and they were still winning with the adjusted times because they were just anciently invincible. But yeah, so like I knew that kid, and there was a dude this guy Dan in my hallway freshman year, that was the closest thing to that dude Brian that you would ever get, the nerdy one, Anthony Michael Hall's character. That this kid, his freshman year at Penn, like it's not community school. At Penn, he was an assistant professor, and he only needed like 4 credits or something like that to finish his like double degree in. He was doing like it was some kind of like tree math type shit, like the Goodwill Hunting math that I get, like I don't even begin to understand. He was doing that and like systems management, like the 2 of the hardest things in the world. And like he was in like 6th grade, he was taking Penn math classes and all this kind of shit. He was co-authoring books, and he like graduated as a freshman basically. And then I saw him my like when I was about to graduate, I saw him my senior year, and it looked like this dude had aged like 40 years. Like it looked like they put like Hollywood makeup on him of like, all right, just turn his hair gray, you know, give him big chubby cheeks, and like put him in some old ass homeless clothes. And like I went by, I was like, Dan? He's like, oh yeah, man, what's up? I was like, what are you doing here? I thought you graduated. I was like, you doing a doctorate or something now? He's like, no, I did the think tank thing and kind of lost my mind. So, I'm back here just doing the undergrad thing. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, poetry and shit. Like, what? Like the dude fully fucking snapped. He snapped so hard he went liberal arts major. Like, you know how hard it is to bring a hardcore math guy around to be like, I'm just gonna do poems and shit. But that, and the other thing of watching the movie, and I just want to move on to these stories that I wanted to tell you, that but watching the movie, it's so funny watching an 80s movie and seeing Molly Ringwald and still being like, there's still part of you that registers her as really hot, right? But it's like, wait, I'm 44. I know she's a kid in this movie. It's not me now. It's like, I got a back then boner for her. That's still legal, right? That's fair game. You can get a nostalgia boner.
Yeah, you're okay.
Because she's in her 50s now.
Right.
I'm out of the...
As long as when you initially, it was okay, you've got the safety net of memories.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky one.
If you saw it for the first time at 44, then you'd have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. The nostalgia boner is second only to the dead porn star boner. Never know what to do with that. The only real solution for the dead porn star is it's prevention. Just don't read the comments, because there is nothing worse in the comments than an RIP, boy. That'll really end.
Isn't that what Gilgamesh was after? Immortality? Long after you're gone, people are still beating it to you?
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what they had in mind.
That's what I got out of that. Maybe I misread it.
Yeah. You might have read it closer than I did. But yeah, so instead of the bad kid, and we didn't have, there was no hard on of a teacher like they had with Bender in the Breakfast Club. But I went to Holy Spirit High School, and we had, I basically had like the luck of the draw that it just by the way it worked out with last names, because everybody was like in class by what their last name was. I drew the absolute most hardcore battle axe of Nun that was still left in service as of I guess it was like 93 when I went into high school. Like she was of the era, because my dad went to Catholic high school, and he told me that the first day of class he was he was in there, and some other kid was talking, and this priest thought it was him, and he was like, "I wasn't talking," and he just went. The guy had a big ass class ring, and just smacked him on the back of his head with his class ring. So my dad was always like, "If they ever hit you, let me know. Like, they are not allowed to hit you." But it was also implying like, well, whatever else, they can just psychologically abuse you all they want,
and they will.
So, dude, Sister Theon she was probably 75. She was like 5'8", 230, sturdy. And she did, even though they didn't have to at the time, she did the full fucking habit and long black dress. She did the full penguin. And she had glasses that partially covered a horrendous glass eye. I mean, just a not fooling anybody. How do you have a lazy glass eye? Right? Like, if you're going glass, can't you at least just point that motherfucker in the morning? No, she had the lazy glass eye. I always say that she had a wooden leg and a real foot. That this old bitch, she had this dead leg that she just dragged everywhere, right? And it was like she was my homeroom teacher freshman year. So like during the orientation, everybody else, you just hear a party in all of these other classrooms. It was like a Saturday detention every day for 2 weeks. That it was like as soon as we got into class, it was like hands on the desk, eyes forward. And then nothing happened. Like, just, that was it. And she would go up and down the aisles, and she would just she didn't hit anybody, but she would just like send you to the principals just for nothing. Just like, boom, here's a detention. Boom, here's a detention. Just went around ruining fucking kids' lives. And we had the stinky kid, right? And she would, and it was like, even then, you knew that this stinky kid had major home problems. It was like, you know, he was like, there wasn't much money, much resources, whatever, but also it was like, the kid just looked feral, but they somehow sent him to this Catholic school. And like every day that he came in stinky, she would like she would also, when she gave out the detentions, she would say why, and she would just walk past him in a totally quiet room and go, "You stink," or like, "You need a bath, go to the principal's." So it's like shaming this kid on top of it. And this was before Columbine. I feel like Columbine probably would have really tempered old Sister Theon. So, and it was like, we were always embarrassed for him. And like somehow this 70-something-year-old lady didn't understand that it like wasn't okay to fucking pick on this kid like this. And he's behind me, and here going around just giving out bad days. He's dragging the leg, and something in the stinky kid's head said, "Sweep the leg." And she went by and she gave him a detention, and then this motherfucker just leg cracked her, and down goes Sister Theon. And dude, but it's hilarious to tell this story, but it was the saddest, like, it was like this kid got bullied to the point of doing this, then he chopped this old bitch down, And dude, she pulled a nub. She's trying to find her horizon and shit. But it was awesome. It was like she was just such a bully that all these Catholic school kids just sat there and didn't help her get up. And she put her weight on a desk and the desk goes out. It was a clumsy get up. And like somehow it wasn't like a huge event that the school didn't investigate it or anything. That kid just never came back, and she never came back to class. But it's like they were just waiting for there's no way that the school didn't know that they had this raging asshole of a nun. That was a time bomb, and maybe this kid's also a time bomb. They're just like, oh well, it's free, so we're just gonna let her work for free forever. And dude, nuns get it so bad. The building that like the convent was maybe 50 yards from the school itself. So like she just dragged that dead leg. She went from dragging that leg up and down to just dragging it back and forth. And then until the day she died, she became Sister Mary Xerox, which is because nuns don't retire, dude. They just have to live. They're working their whole fucking life. So they just chained this old bitch to the copy machine. And then, so it went from being like you had to look out for her homeroom, and then it was just like whenever you had to go into the office for some reason, like make it quick because Sister Mary Xerox is gonna get you. But yeah, it predates school shootings. But let's pull up. There's only one article that we're gonna cover today. If we could, Bobby.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up. While we do, I never got to go to Catholic school because in 7th grade I was in CCD and we had a nun, and I had enough. She was the same way, just bullying everybody, but it wasn't the people who needed it.
Whoa. Were you stinky?
No, I was not the stinky one.
Okay.
I was the normal one. I was the one who she should have been picking on for being a jackass, but she picked on the weak. And then you can fight nuns with psychological warfare. Just point out, be like, no matter how hard you try, you're never going to get to be a priest. You can be the best nun in the world. Oh, yeah, you just go straight to psychological. You gave your whole life to the best thing you could be as an assistant to somebody. I hope you know you wasted it.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Robert. I thank you. Pull this story up. Sexting nun branded a whore and banished from monastery, but denies breaking no-sex vow. A nun was branded a whore and exiled from her monastery after confessing to sexting a priest has denied she broke her vow of chastity. Reverend Mother Superior Teresa Agnes Gerlach. These fucking names they give these poor broads. The former leader of a Catholic convent in Texas is suing Fort Worth Bishop Michael Olson after he claimed she was guilty of breaking her promise to never have sex. She insists her romance with the priest never got physical. Okay, so checking in right now. Don't scroll any further. Wait. Okay, back up. Oh, yeah. You gotta see, just the very top. When you see her at a glance, right there, no, up a little bit more. Just go face. Yeah. When you see her at a glance, it's like, okay, Sister Mother Superior Agnes, I see you. Then you scroll down a little bit more. That's definitely a wheelchair. And that's when this thing really gets interesting. So I feel like they could have led with wheelchair nun sexting. But the 43-year-old nun who has chronic health issues that has confined her to a wheelchair and required her to use a feeding tube admitted to having a raunchy over-the-phone romance with a Montana priest during an interrogation by the bishop back in April. Hey, first of all, this bishop interrogating her for sure was hard this entire time. Just scroll it back up. Let's keep it on her for a second. But the feeding tube element of this whole thing is just so much weirder. So this poor old broad can't eat can't walk. She's 43, probably never been touched, and the only person she can think of to start sexting is a priest, which is wild. I made a horrible, horrible mistake. She can be heard saying in a recording of their conversation. The recording, which was played out in court on Tuesday, continued as the bishop probed the nun for more details. Yeah, probed the nun for more details on the scandalous relationship. I was not in my right mind. Even a nun can fall. Blah, 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 blah. The right-hand man has also confessed to breaking her vow of chastity. Father Johnson was granted leave from the Diocese of Raleigh, North Carolina, before he joined a monastic community in Montana. Yeah, so that bald creep that you had before, that's the guy who was on the other end of it. Yeah. If I was going to bet anybody was a pedophile as a priest, it's that guy. He was granted a leave of absence.
Yeah, look at the caption. Look at the caption. That's why he was granted a leave. He has terminal brain cancer.
Oh, yeah, gotta read the details, Richie. You gotta read the details.
People, Richie, these are the fault in our stars.
Yeah, come on, man. Who deserves to have a little hand action more than a paralyzed nun in a wheelchair and a guy with brain cancer? Man, thank God you saved me from going any further down, but that is very much a red flag. If a priest was granted a leave of absence, what for, bro? You moved around a lot as a priest, did you? This ain't the army, motherfucker. Yeah, this is not the army. Why'd you move so many times? I want a priest that's been in one spot for 30, 40 years. That's it. Don't you be no damn itinerant priest. But yeah, dude, how shitty is that? Wait a second, hilarious. The diocese also have alerted police to serious concerns of marijuana and edibles they claim to have discovered inside the Arlington monastery where that guy was. That's great. But yeah, I mean, the entire thing is like, what's less natural to force any human being to do than to never have sex? And also you're supposed to be this beacon of morality while you're just crazy horny. And that's the thing that I've always wondered about with the priest with the pedo priest is, I mean, some of them absolutely went in there because like the guy that was my coach in high school, is like, it's the breeding ground and it's the best cover, right? But like, how many of them just lose their fucking minds from not having sex for like 20 years, and it's just like, all right, well, whatever it is. I mean, there's no way to ever know that, but what I do know is that at least back in the day, a lot of nuns were hoes. A lot of nuns were hoes. Don't forget that. Especially in like Germany, in like the Middle Ages and shit, because it was a great honor to have a priest in the family. But a lot of the times women went into the convent because they had a kid out of wedlock, and the parents would make them give the kid up, and then they just send her hoe ass into the nunnery. So, dude, there's some nuns. Dude, nun pussy, yo. I feel like the most forbidden puss. I just always kind of accepted the fact that I was never going to get Amish puss unless I somehow wound up catching one on Rumspringa, right? But then you're dealing with a meth head who stinks.
She's getting some detentions.
Yeah. Muslim puss, very far out of reach. Very far out of reach. Dude,
the Holy
how
Grail.
How many white guys can say they know what's under that burqa? I want to know. If you are a listener, if you're a viewer, you've gotten under that baby. Woo wee! You see, got that beekeeper out of their suit. My goodness. But I think the only thing harder than Muslim pussy is nun pussy. You kind of got to give it up to this priest. He's got game. He's got good on him. I ain't mad at you, priest. I ain't mad at you.
No,
but
he's got cancer.
yeah.
He gets high on his edibles, and then he's searching for some nun pussy. That seems like the ideal time, to be honest.
Dude, how great would it be if instead of repenting, she just took a heel turn and just she was the first nun on OnlyFans? Do you know how many completely repressed Catholic guys would be fucking throwing subscription money? Dude, I just realized that in that picture of her in the wheelchair, she's actually hooked up to an IV. she's got the feeding tube in right now. Oh man, dude, there are guys. That kid, the stinky kid, would pay good money to change her colostomy bag every day if she would only let him. But man, this thing got away from me. I've got a whole bunch of other stories I'm going to tell you guys another time. I want to talk a whole bunch of shit about some more coaches that I had. But I love doing this show. I love you guys for watching. I would love it even more if you told some people about it. I don't know, help this thing get off the fucking ground. But Bobby, Twiz, great hanging out, and glad you had a good off week. And let's get to the apartment next time, young Robert. Come to my new place. Yeah. And Twiz, you're further away. One of these days, brother. One of these days. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Richie Redding.
In a
It's
world
really
that's
real.
been kicked in the nuts by fake news, nobody knows what to believe.
I don't know what I said.
We need one maverick newsman to cut through all the noise and tell us what's really real.
I'm not that guy.